In 1942, Nazi commanders demanded a weapon strong enough to erase whole apartment blocks in a single shot. Their answer was to mount a 345-kilogram naval rocket, a projectile designed to punch through over 2 meters of concrete on the world's heaviest tank chassis. But while this siege machine terrified anyone in its path, it never managed to change the fate of a collapsing regime. Why did brilliance in destruction become Germany's ultimate battlefield liability? The answer begins in the ruins of Stalingrad. Stalingrad's cityscape turned into a labyrinth of shattered concrete and twisted steel. German infantry, trained for open field battle, found themselves crawling through cellars, storming stairwells, and fighting for every ruined room. The Red October factory and Pavlov's house became household names among soldiers, not for their size, but for the way they swallowed up entire battalions. Buildings changed hands a dozen times, defenders blasted holes through walls for surprise attacks, and snipers hid in the rubble, making every advance a gamble. Artillery and airstrikes reduced blocks to skeletons, but the Soviets kept coming, using the debris for cover. German assault guns like the Brummbär with its 15-centimeter howitzer were rushed into action. Their shells punched through walls but rarely brought down the whole structure. Instead of clearing defenders, these barrages left the Soviets with new firing positions. The city's defenders could vanish into cellars or upper floors, forcing German grenadiers to fight the same territory over and over. Each failed assault meant more casualties and less progress. The front lines shrank to the width of a street or even a single staircase. Commanders demanded a solution, something that could erase an entire building, not just chip away at it. The relentless stalemate at places like Pavlov's house exposed the limits of conventional firepower. The need for a weapon that could break the deadlock became impossible to ignore as the siege dragged on, and German soldiers paid the price in blood for every meter gained. The answer came from the Navy, not the Army. German engineers took a weapon meant to hunt submarines, an enormous 380mm rocket mortar, and adapted it for city fighting. The RW-61 fired a projectile weighing 345 kilograms. Of that total, 125 kilograms was high explosive, enough to turn reinforced concrete into dust. In tests, the shaped charge warhead could punch through 2.5 meters of solid reinforced concrete in a single blast. This was not a shell. It was a demolition charge with a rocket motor, designed for coastal batteries and naval fortresses, now aimed at city blocks instead of enemy ships. No ordinary tank could handle the weight or the recoil. Only the Tiger I chassis, already famous for its size and strength, could serve as the foundation. Engineers stripped off the Tiger's turret and built a new boxy superstructure to house the massive launcher. Inside, the crew worked in cramped conditions, surrounded by shells taller than a man's torso. Loading a single round required a built-in crane and teamwork, but the promise was simple: one shot, one building erased. This was not a field gun or a bunker buster. It was a siege weapon on tracks, designed to shatter the kind of defenses that had stalled entire armies in Stalingrad. The Sturmtiger was born from desperation and technical bravado, a direct answer to the problem that no existing gun could solve. In October 1943, a prototype rolled out for inspection, an armored beast mounting a naval rocket launcher where the Tiger's turret used to be. Adolf Hitler watched the demonstration with fascination, convinced that this new weapon could break the stalemates that had bled his armies dry in the cities of the East. The idea was simple. If the Sturmtiger could erase entire buildings, it could erase the kind of resistance that turned Stalingrad into a graveyard. But building monsters was expensive. Each Sturmtiger cost 250,000 Reichsmarks, more than double the price of a Panzer IV, which came in at 103,000 Reichsmarks. For the price of one Sturmtiger, Germany could have fielded 2.5 medium tanks, or 2 Stu-G3 assault guns. These numbers were not just abstract accounting. By 1944, every tank lost on the front lines meant one less chance to hold back Soviet armor or Allied advances in France. Yet, on April 19, 1944, Hitler signed the final production order. The plan was to convert damaged Tiger I hulls returning from the front, machines already battered by battle, into the new siege vehicles. Procurement officers and engineers faced a trade-off. Each Sturm Tiger that left the Alket factory in Berlin represented not just a technical achievement, but a sacrifice. The resources poured into these 18 vehicles could have kept dozens of more flexible, proven tanks in the fight. As Germany's situation worsened, the decision to prioritize a weapon designed for a past crisis over the needs of a collapsing front spoke volumes about the regime's mindset. The Sturm Tiger's journey from prototype to production was not just about building a weapon, but about the cost of chasing extremes when every resource counted. The Sturm Tiger looked invincible from the outside. Its armor, 150 millimeters thick at the front and sloped to deflect incoming shells, could shrug off most Allied anti-tank fire of the era. Crews felt safe behind that wall of steel, but protection was only part of the story. Inside, the reality was far less reassuring. The main weapon, a 380 millimeter rocket mortar, demanded its own set of compromises. Each round weighed as much as a motorcycle. The vehicle could carry only 14 rockets, stacked in a cramped compartment. Reloading was a slow, mechanical dance. After every shot, the crew relied on a built-in crane to hoist the next shell into place. Even with a well-drilled team, the process took close to 10 minutes, an eternity under fire. Firing the Sturm Tiger was like lighting a signal flare for every enemy within miles. The designers had solved the problem of toxic rocket exhaust by drilling 31 vents around the muzzle. These channels blasted out smoke and flame, creating a thunderous roar and a cloud that betrayed the vehicle's position instantly. Once the rocket left the barrel, the Sturm Tiger was blind and exposed, forced to sit still through the reload cycle. If the enemy responded quickly, even the thick armor could not guarantee survival. Range was another illusion. On paper, the Sturm Tiger could hit targets nearly 6 kilometers away. In practice, accuracy fell apart at distance. The massive rockets drifted off course, and temperature changes could throw off the calculations by hundreds of meters. Hitting a specific building, even a large one, became a matter of luck. For the crew, every shot was a gamble. Unleash overwhelming force, then pray the enemy did not spot them before they could reload. The Sturm Tiger's greatest strengths came bundled with weaknesses that no amount of armor could hide. In Warsaw, the Sturm Tiger finally did what it was built for. Factory engineers, pressed into service as crew, fired rocket after rocket into insurgent-held buildings. Entire apartment blocks vanished in seconds, burying defenders beneath tons of rubble. Yet even here, the weapon's impact was limited by its own design. It was clumsy to position, slow to reload, and unable to keep up with the pace of battle. In the Ardennes, 7 Sturm Tigers were assigned to the offensive, but most never reached the front. Engines failed, transmissions seized, and some vehicles broke down before firing a single shot. By the time the Allies crossed the Rhine at Remagen, the Sturm Tiger's last mission was to destroy the Ludendorff Bridge. Not a single rocket struck the span. Instead, one round landed among American Shermans by accident, the only time the Sturm Tiger destroyed enemy tanks in combat. For the crews inside, the promise of unstoppable power faded into frustration and futility. 18 Sturm Tigers left the assembly lines between August and December 1944. Not a single new chassis was built for the project. Every one was a converted Tiger I, reclaimed from the battlefield and rebuilt at enormous expense. Out of Germany's entire armored force, these machines were a rare sight, making up less than 1% of the tanks produced that year. Ammunition was even scarcer. Only 317 rockets were manufactured, enough to give each vehicle a single full load with a handful of spares. In combat, fewer than 100 shots were ever fired. That number speaks louder than any battlefield report. No city fell because of a Sturm Tiger. No bridge or fortress was lost to its rockets. While Germany's tank losses climbed into the hundreds every month, the Sturm Tiger's handful of missions vanished into the chaos of retreat. The numbers leave no doubt. All that engineering, all that cost, and almost nothing to show for it. Today, military budgets still chase spectacular machines, often at the expense of practical needs. The Sturmtiger proves that engineering brilliance can become strategic folly when divorced from reality. In war, timing and purpose matter more than power. The deadliest weapon is the one that blinds decision-makers to consequence.